Joe Biden has been pushed out of the race by his own party, by the big donors in his party, by the party bigwigs. They have pushed out the president of the United States. Whew. Hell of a week, ain't it? Hell of a week. Got the orange man get shot at by somebody in his own party. And you got Joe Biden gets pushed out of the race by his own party. Let's talk about this shit, y'all, in the realest way. Because I've seen this only one time in the course that I have to teach. No, that I was an expert in teaching, which is U.S. history 1877 to the present. Okay. On the high school level, that is. I'm an expert at the high school level. I've seen something like this one time. It didn't turn out well for the Democrats that one time. Let's get into it. Before we do, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I am your homeboy person. This is the realest, most entertaining show in the game. Put it on some again. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that share button, put all your people on it. So yes, the Democrats have been fucking scrambling since that poor debate performance by Joe Biden. And it was undoubtedly a poor performance, particularly when he couldn't put that sentence together and he just looked 80 something, All of us who are younger than that can only hope to get there. You feel me? But when it comes to being able to debate in prime time like that, that was tough for an 80-year-old. He may say, well, it wasn't tough for Trump, man. Trump looked like shit that night as well. Okay. It's just that the folks on the Republican side don't give a fuck. Okay. That some bitch sat up there and lied. We talked about that. Okay. He had very loud lies. And because of that, people thought, oh, he's fine. No, he ain't. No, he ain't. Did y'all say I'm gonna go to sleep at the RNC? Come on, man. We're gonna get to him momentarily. Let's focus on Joe Biden. From that moment, on that debate stage, his own motherfucking party has been scrambling. Okay. Motherfuckers on MSNBC, which is the left-leaning channel, they lost their minds. Okay. Folks up and down my timeline lost their minds. Okay. And we saw all these various folks coming out saying he needs to go. Hollywood types like George Clooney. Then you saw fellow Dems coming out. So now they got what they wanted. Okay. Joe Biden pushed back on them, along the way. He's like, I'm doing it. He went, did the rally. He said, talked about, knowing how to bounce back, or when you get knocked down, you get back up and all that kind of shit. And, he did the interview. He's done several interviews since then. He didn't calm anything down. So now he's out. Okay. He released a message on Twitter. Y'all have seen it, I'm sure. But like I said, I've seen this one other time during the time period that I have to really teach. And it was in 1968 when it happened. Let's go back. Let's go back to 68, y'all. Okay. And for my triple OGs out there, maybe even some more double OGs, y'all are familiar with the man who was president in 1968, a man by the name of Lyndon Baines Johnson, or as many people simply call him, LBJ. take a look at old LBJ. Now, LBJ took over after John F. Kennedy was assassinated November 1963. Okay. And what LBJ did was serve out the rest of Kennedy's term. So Kennedy was elected in November of 1960. Kennedy took office January of 1961. Got assassinated, like I said, November of 1963. And so since Kennedy didn't serve his full 4 years, Johnson served that out, but then got elected in his own right in 1964. Okay. So see, there's a little technicality in the Constitution that a lot of people don't know about. Okay. You have 4-year terms, okay, and because of the 22nd Amendment, you can't serve more than 2 terms. However, there's a technicality. President Slick can serve up to 10 years. If you like when you come into office, you're serving out just a remainder. In his situation, you're serving out a little bit of a previous of your predecessor's time. If that's the case, you can go ahead and have 2 full terms of your own. Okay. So Johnson, who served out, Kennedy, the rest of Kennedy's time, which was from November 63 through January of 65. Okay. That was the rest of Kennedy's term. Okay. Johnson gets elected in his own right. Okay. So he could have served 65 to 69 and then had another 4 years after that, 69 to 73. What happened though? Johnson chose to step down. Okay. Or he chose to, I shouldn't say he chose to step down. We've only had one president quit the office, and that's Richard Nixon. We'll talk about him momentarily. But Johnson shocked the nation by stepping out of the race in 1968. Now, you may wonder, why in the hell would he do that? Especially if you know anything about Lyndon Baines Johnson. It had been his life's dream to be president of the United States. Kind of like Joe Biden. Johnson had been in Washington for decades. Kind of like Joe Biden. Johnson had been a big-time senator. Kind of like Joe Biden. Johnson had been vice president to a younger, charismatic president. Somebody who was viewed as a transformative president or change candidate. Kind of like Joe Biden. Thankfully, Joe Biden didn't come to the presidency under the same circumstances that Lyndon Baines Johnson did. As I said, he came to power because Kennedy got assassinated. Okay. However, like Joe Biden, Johnson oversaw U.S. involvement in a very, very unpopular conflict. That conflict was the Vietnam War. Now, there are some differences, of course. I cannot draw direct parallels between the war in Vietnam and the Israeli versus Hamas conflict. Okay. In one instance, you had American troops on the ground killing and being killed in Vietnam, whereas in this current unpopular conflict between Israel and Hamas, we don't have boots on the ground doing the killing or being killed, but it's our money being used to engage in what many are calling genocide against the Palestinian people. And so that has eroded much of Joe Biden's liberal support from white young liberals on these college campuses. Y'all saw it. Y'all saw them kids was out there raising hell, and justifiably so. Well, imagine that shit on steroids under Lyndon Baines Johnson. You got motherfuckers calling Joe Biden Genocide Joe. These folks were saying that Lyndon Baines Johnson, hey, LBJ, how many kids have you killed today? And now that, the history has all come out about it, Johnson knew we were in an unwinnable situation. He knew goddamn well we couldn't win that war, but he didn't want to be the president to lose a war. But then when it came around for the 1968 election and seeing how unpopular he had become amongst the young liberal whites and seeing how just whites in general had run from the Democratic Party because of, the Dixiecrat revolt, and because this is the guy who signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And the saying goes that when he signed that he said, "I have signed away the South from my party for a generation." And let's take a look at the results politically of the signing of the Civil Rights Act of 64 for the Democrats. That's the 1964 Electoral College map, y'all. That motherfucker was right, wasn't he? Partly right, because he said they say he said for a generation. Shit, it's been more than a generation, Jack. Okay, so that's in 64. So you already got white racists who wasn't gonna be fucking with them no more because of this. Then you pissed off the liberal whites, you know what I'm saying, who were anti-Vietnam War. So this man was reeling by 1960, even with these accomplishments. I'm talking about Civil Rights Act of 1964, Voting Rights Act of 1965, Medicare, Medicaid, big shit. But that boy was reeling by 68, which led to him getting primary. So here's a difference. Okay, here's a difference. See, today's Dems didn't really have no real primary this year. They knew that Biden was old. Hell, he was old when he got elected. They knew that a lot of folks were pissed off about his stance on Israel. They knew that. They knew that many black Democratic voters, were kind of looking at them sideways because they were looking for something tangible, like for black people in particular. So they knew going into this that there was an erosion of support for Joe Biden, but they didn't do no real primary on his ass. In 68, Lyndon Baines Johnson got primary by this fella y'all looking at right now, Hubert Humphrey. And Hubert Humphrey did, better than a lot of folks were thinking at first. Like, oh, it made folks say, Lyndon Johnson is vulnerable. So then, when a certain somebody saw that, he chose to hop in the race. And that certain somebody already didn't like Lyndon Baines Johnson. Okay. That certain somebody wanted to kind of continue his brother's legacy. And so that certain somebody hopped in the race, his damn self. And that would be Robert F. Kennedy. So this is John F. Kennedy right here. This is Robert F. Kennedy. And this is Edward Kennedy, which they usually call him Ted Kennedy. Okay. But this is the one. He going to hop in the race in 6'8". And LBJ saw the, how the wind was blowing. And he shocked America in a speech. Wasn't no Twitter yet. Our Biden just did his shit today with Twitter. He shocked America during a speech in which he basically told America he would not accept his party's nomination for president. So that opened the door for Robert Kennedy, better known as Bobby Kennedy, to win. Well, see, I know we living through some shit right now, but them motherfucking 1960s was some shit. You understand me? Them 1960s was some shit. A motherfucker write a whole book about 1963. Okay? Medgar Evers getting killed. The March on Washington. Those 4 little girls getting blown up in that church in Alabama. A lot of shit in 63, dog. Let's look at 68. I just told you that the sitting president with a legislative agenda passed that makes Biden look like a baby. Really make any modern president shit look like a baby. Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, Fair Housing Act, Medicaid, Medicare, Head Start, Job Corps. This motherfucker was on the road. Stepped down, stepped aside, chose not to run again. Dr. King got assassinated in 68. And so was Bobby Kennedy. 1968 was a motherfucker, y'all. Was a motherfucker. So with Kennedy dead, who I think he would have won the presidency. He had his brother's name, you know what I'm talking about, and all the goodwill surrounding his brother. He had come out against, what Johnson was doing in Vietnam. You feel me? Black folks were rallying behind him and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, he probably would have won. But with him dead, that led to a race between Hubert Humphrey, who I showed y'all previously, and the previous vice president to Dwight Eisenhower, Republican Richard Nixon, who ran in 1960 but lost to Bobby Kennedy's brother, John F. Kennedy. Well, in that race, Humphrey versus Nixon, this is how it turned out. Y'all see who won? Richard Nixon. Tricky Dicky. Okay. He got 43% of the vote. Humphrey got 42.6% of the vote. So incredibly close race. Oh, a certain candidate named George Wallace got 9.4 million votes. 12.9% of the votes went to a candidate who ran on the platform of protecting segregation. And look at what he did. He won Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. That's a whole nother video, though. But yeah, incredibly close race in the popular vote. But when it comes to the electoral vote, landslide. 301 for Nixon, 191 for Humphrey. So all that shit led to one of the most corrupt motherfuckers in modern American history becoming the president of the United States, Richard Milhouse Nixon. And we see how that turned out. This is the one and only president to quit while still in office. Because even his own party, a different Republican party at that time, even his own party said to him, hey man, shit, you might need to roll, dog. Because they were going to vote to impeach and convict his ass. So before they got that chance, Tricky Dicky chunked the deuces. So this is the kind of shit that got me worried. Because again, as a student of history, bro, when you be knowing all this kind of shit, it's like you can slick predict the future because people act the same way. You feel me? Like the technology is different, but people's desires are the same. What motivates people, those things are the same. What galvanizes people, those things are the fucking same. The same prejudices that people have, the same biases that people have. They still had them shits that they had back in 1968. You feel me? This is what I'm hoping for, though. I'm hoping that somehow this woman can have that same Bobby Kennedy effect. Okay? Like Bobby Kennedy had such juice behind his campaign when he was running. Okay? And again, if that man had lived, he would have won that presidency and we probably would have had a much different world. Probably. I don't know. You know, the Kennedys were late to the party for real on civil rights issues. Them not growing up around black people for real. And when they got in there, they really chose to emphasize the Cold War and all that kind of shit. They really wasn't, you know, freedom fighters as people be looking at them like that for real initially. They weren't. Now, a lot of people I respect came around on them and in particular Bobby Kennedy, you know, during this 6-day campaign. And it energized the party. Well, I'm hoping that this black woman has the same effect. And I'm hoping that the same fucking Secret Service that let that boy shoot at Trump. We got to have the best motherfuckers around this woman. Let some folks off of Obama detail come help this woman. Because otherwise, if this woman is not allowed to run this campaign successfully, and if her candidacy doesn't energize the motherfucking party, then what this boy Donald Trump does in his second term will make anything Tricky Dicky did look like a baby. Fuck that. Donald Trump already makes Tricky Dicky look like a baby. What the fuck he be on? So get behind her. All you motherfuckers who are calling for Biden to step down, well, goddamn it, you got it. Get behind this woman. And don't let this shit be another 1968. Put it on something.